Good. Okay. All right, I'll call the budget meeting of April 30th, call to order. And I just want to acknowledge that the Northern Rockies Administration Center is located in the heart of the traditional territory of the Dene, Cree, and Denesaw people of Fort Nelson and Prophet River First Nations. We further recognize the rights provided by our treaty and celebrate the contributions and the enduring presence of the Métis people in our region. Please be advised that this meeting is available to the public to attend virtually and is being streamed and recorded. Could I have adoption of are there any additions? Nope. Seeing none, could I have adoption of the agenda, please, by Councillor Andrews and Enax? All in favor? Motion carries. And I have 3 sets of minutes for adoption: the draft 2024 budget meeting of March 4th, the final 2024 budget meeting of April 18th, and the draft 2025 budget meeting of March the 11th. Councillor Enax, do I have a second by Councillor Roper? All in favor? And that's carried. And I will call upon the mayor now. He wished to make a few comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry if I was a little bit late. We had a bit of a grass fire on our project this morning, but yeah, I wanted to take the opportunity to thank everybody involved with the budget. It's a big project. It's a big endeavor across the entire organization. So I really want to thank all the staff who worked hard at putting the binder together and coming up with all the information and really putting it in a format that is easy to understand, easy to follow. Once you start getting a lot of sticky notes in there, it starts to get a little bit complicated. But yeah, I thought it was well presented, and thank all the council for putting the hard work into it that you all have. Thank any members of the public who spoke with us, wrote letters to us, gave us some feedback on the audit on the budget this year. I think we've probably had as much interaction this year as we've had all the years that I've been involved with this budget anyway, combined this year. So thanks to everybody who spoke to us, spoke to all us different councillors about different aspects of the budget. So thank you very much to all of the public who participated. Yeah, and again, kudos to all of you as councillors to take a very active and interested part. We had a couple of sessions at the market and open house at the hall, and everybody participated the best way they could. So thanks to everybody, and with that, I'll turn it back over to the deputy mayor. We can maybe come to a final agreement on the budget.
Great, thanks, Mayor. So next we will do the overview of the budget, and I think Tony is presenting that portion. But before we start that, I'm just wondering if council can have a discussion on when we get to the decision-making part. How do we want to do it? Do we want to do it just by the large tabs, or unless somebody has something to pull out, or do you want to go little tab by little tab? Councilor Roper?
I would say if a councillor wants to pull out a smaller tab, we could do that. But
Okay.
The bigger the decision, the better for me, because we've been through so many meetings now that I'm at the point where I'm ready.
Okay.
So unless there's new information, I'm ready to proceed.
Okay. Does anybody feel differently than that? Okay. And then Mayor, your hands up.
Yeah. So my thought would be that we look at the large tabs as individual decision points until we get to tab 4, where we have some councillors who have identified conflicts of interest with the different ones. And I think once we get to tab 4, grants to community groups, we look at each one of the community groups as a decision point. That way, each of the councillors who may have a conflict can declare their conflict at that. We can do whatever discussion and voting that we need to do, and then move on to the next one and let the councillors come back in. My fear is that if we do them all as a group in number 4, that 3 or more of you will will say that you've got a conflict with some part of it, and then we won't have quorum. So that's why I'm interested in doing those individually.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement. And then one more point of business before I hand it over is I will be declaring a conflict on the Literacy Society. Although I'm no longer involved in the society, I feel that I still would like to declare a conflict. I have asked Councillor Souls if he would take over that portion of the meeting, and he has agreed. If council agrees with that, are we all good to go? Okay, all right then. So I'm going to hand it over to Tony. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Council. It's a pleasure to sit with you once again with the budget. Short and sweet, though, I just want to draw your attention to tab 1, right behind the colored section 1. And we've got Jay in the room who's going to direct people if we've got some confusion on what we're talking about. But there's a document, a 1-page document there that I just wanted to highlight. And it identifies the changes to the budget that was originally presented over the March 11th to the 13th. So in departmental operations, we see 2 small changes with an overall reduction in tax levy. Under special projects, we had 2 projects that we removed. They were finalized in 2024. We made a funding reduction in the 2025 wildfire prevention project. And we had the addition of 2 projects, one being the wildfire mitigation and the other being the Gotta Go. There were 3 changes in the capital projects. So 1 project again was completed in 2024, so it's being removed. The town square phased renewal was updated with no change to tax dollars. And the town hall accessibility project was further refined with a decrease of $165,000 to the tax levy. And then we get into the section for the grants to groups, and we identified there were 6 changes here. The 5 changes in the funding that had been requested, and we have the addition of one new proposal from the Fort Nelson Snowmobile Club. So what that does is it brings the required funding from taxation to $26,774,316. And that is almost a $3.1 million increase over the 2024 tax levy. And a note that the sample properties that were also updated to reflect that tax levy. And short of that, I don't have any other comments for you other than just to update you on the changes that we made from those first meetings.
Great, thank you. Does council have any questions of Ms. Pike at this time? Okay, then we'll move. Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. Mayor, do you have a question?
No, but I was prepared to move the operating budget with the special projects section.
Okay, I'm just wondering if Mr. Barry has a message, if he would like to do that now.
Sure. I won't be long. I'll echo what the mayor said. Obviously, there's a lot of work that goes into the budget. Appreciate council's work on their end, and also patience. Times when, with changes and challenges, of course, and updates, it's a balance between trying to keep the latest version and share the latest information to council, and also trying to manage that. So a lot of moving parts, lots of balls in here at the same time, and sometimes it creates a little bit of confusion. So appreciate your patience with that. Really want to just acknowledge the work that the staff has done. It takes a significant amount of time and effort in the background. I mean, this is a product that's, started. We basically start the budget process. After this budget process is done, we'll be starting the 26th budget process. So, and really dig into the fall of the year. Spend a lot of time reviewing operations. Always look for opportunities for efficiencies. New legislation and government, provincial government downloading increases our requirements and workload, and we look at ways to mitigate what the impacts are on the organization through efficiencies. That's a continuous improvement process, and I think the budget reflects that. And of course, there's always challenges with inflation and cost of goods and geopolitical situations, as Councillor Souls indicated during his MFA update at the Monday meeting. So just a heartfelt thank you to everyone, staff, for their hard work, and the directors and their staff for putting the work in for this. And I think the product each year gets improves in terms of the process.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, Mayor, back to, you wanted to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll move tab 3, I believe it is, for the operational and special projects budget as presented.
That would be tab 2.
That's
Tab 2.
Two,
Color
that's
tab.
color tab 2, right?
Yep. Color tab 2 would be the operations, which includes the special projects.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, is there a second for that? Councillor Souls, open for discussion? Councillor Roper?
So just to clarify, this is special projects, and that includes the wildfire mitigation and fire smart activities, the $500,000. Is that correct?
Yes, it
Indeed.
does.
Okay, so I think we need to have a discussion about that. We did receive some feedback at the open house and just some general conversations about that $500,000. I believe Councillor Andrews did as well. The concerns that I heard was that there was no information or details on how exactly those funds will be spent, and we kind of talked about, you know, maybe it would be for it would go towards the community forest for clearing brush, maybe it would go towards some sort of other capital project, but we don't have that information, so it's hard for me to approve an expense where we don't know exactly what that expense is, especially in a year where we have such an increase in our total taxation. I just learned that the community forest is getting $1.2 million from the provincial government for fire mitigation initiatives. So I'm wondering what everyone else thinks about this $500,000. This could be something that we could fund through other means. If a project comes up, we could potentially fund that through surplus and then replenish the surplus the next year. I wouldn't want to see a good project not be approved because it wasn't within that $500,000. Maybe it was $700,000, but then we're locked into this this line item budget. We don't really know what it's for or what we need to do. So I'd like to hear some more feedback.
Okay.
Yeah, I had heard the same thing, and also kind of parameters on approving those funds too. Like, I know that when we first heard about it, it was because we can't add taxation in the middle of the year. Better time to do it now, which I kind of agreed with. But I just kind of hoped we had a little bit more parameters on how, where, why these funds are going to go. I know it's for mitigation projects, but other than that, we haven't really narrowed that down.
Okay. Mayor?
Thanks. Yeah, we haven't narrowed it down because the committee is brand new. The committee's been busy getting themselves together, understanding the issues on fire mitigation and the opportunities around fire mitigation, and haven't come up with any solid plans to present to council yet. Projects to present to council. There's some ideas. Certainly, we talked about before we knew that the community forest was going to get some funds to help with wildfire mitigation, and that's great. But there's many potential projects that this committee will want to recommend to council. For instance, the project that was just recently completed by the committee with coordination with parks and it's not parks, it's community, the trails and with the wildfire service and forestry around cleaning up the Parker Lake access, 35 meters, and that was done by Radar Road. If he hadn't taken that on himself voluntarily including all the costs that went with that, that's potentially a project type that the committee would recommend to council. Now, there may be others. We know now that we got a report from the Ministry of Forests with respect to the potential high risk, high hazard areas around the community that they feel are important from a safety perspective to do fire mitigation. But they've only identified them as high risk areas. They haven't even got to the point where they're figuring out what the prescriptive measures may be within those. So there may be several projects like the one that went down to Parker Lake that could come out of that the committee will recommend to council. Committee doesn't get to spend this money. These are projects that will be put forward to us as a council. The council then with staff will determine best way to go forward with that particular project, if we even want to go forward with it anyways. So that the decision-making ability on that pool of funds sits with council, with direction and recommendations from the committee. Now, they have talked about mass water volume transfers, which would require potentially monitors, large hoses, perhaps big pumps. But in order to do that, you need to have a large volume of water. So another project they're potentially looking at is putting a firewater reservoir, somewhere around the community. It was originally suggested that it would be up in the demonstration forest, up behind the Angus and the high school. But again, that all has to be flushed out. So there are ideas at the committee, and there's a lot of expertise at that committee to come up with potential projects. Is the 500,000 right? Is it 700,000? Well, it's a number that we needed to start with, and essentially, I was pressed the committee to see if they could come up with a number that they thought was right, and really all it came down to was the $385,000 I think that Forest Enhancement BC gave to the community forest to do the mitigation work up behind the 301 ball diamonds. And so I rounded it up to 500,000 because of the potential other types of projects that the committee might come forward with. They just haven't flushed out anything yet. And as I said earlier, and I think that's what Kyle was referring to, the fact that the time to put it in the budget is now. Those funds can be expended as the projects come forward, but at least there's a dedicated amount there in budget that we can move forward, rather than throughout the year the different projects going into reserves to fund those projects. That can happen if there is more. Like, that's council's prerogative, I suppose, to amend the budget later on in the year, because all of the right circumstances showed themselves and provided themselves to us that a project that was worth more than 500,000 or would go over the 500,000 presents itself. That's our opportunity, I guess, to revisit the budget in the long term. But I guess the last thing I'd like to say is the committee put out a survey. Some of you may have participated in that survey. One of the questions in that survey was whether or not the taxpayer in the community was prepared to see an increase in their were prepared to spend taxpayer dollars on projects for wildfire mitigation. The last report I saw showed that 80% were prepared to spend tax dollars on fire mitigation projects. If we don't put it in, can we go back? Sure, I suppose we can, but it seems to me prudent that we identify at least an amount, and from there, instead of piecemealing it over the years, we get an opportunity to see whether 500,000 is the right amount for annual allocations based on what the committee does for us and recommends to us. So I hope that that answers some of your questions with respect to what are the types of projects, how will a decision be made with respect to the spending of the money that comes to council.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I just want to add one thing. Those zones that the province identified as high-risk areas, they're not going to get to them this year. So that was stated at the meeting. they all know that they're high-risk areas but they're not going to get there. So some of those areas might be something that this committee looks at bringing to council. I'm not sure. But that sort of disappointed me, given everything that has happened last year, that they have themselves identified areas of high risk, but they are not able to deal with it this year. So, yeah. Councillor Souls, did you have something to add?
I just look at it from the point of view of how, for one, we're still in a very severe drought, even though it's wetter than it was last spring at this time. There have been identified deficiencies in managing an emergency from a firefighting point of view, like as in water, access to enough water and deep enough ponds for dipping and with helicopters and various things like that. I see that this, I understand the angst around not having defined measures in a budget, because that's what budgets are for. But the flip side of that is that budgets are there also as a way of expressing an idea. And in this case, I believe that having a fund that's ready for emergency use to facilitate some of the things that we know need to happen, other than waiting for a year or more for the ministries to act. I think it's prudent to have it there for the messaging that it sends. The messaging is that we as council are aware that we're still at risk and that we want to be ready for that risk and help our fire resiliency committee and others to help them have access to some support.
Thank you. You good? Okay. Mr. Barry?
Yeah, thank you. I'll just add that, and I won't comment on the value or whatnot, because obviously that's been discussed, but in terms of a placeholder for expensing a particular item, my recommendation would be that if there's an intent to expense an item throughout the 2025 year, then it would be budgeted. And in this case, it's a placeholder, and I'll compare it to equipment maintenance or equipment repairs, right? We don't know what's going to break on a piece of equipment between now and the end of the year, but we anticipate we're going to have some sort of mechanical failure or potential failure, and we try to budget for it accordingly. So we'll have, taxed funds budgeted to be able to repair a piece of equipment. So it's similar because Public Works, I mean, if you look at the operational budget, there's a line item around materials and supplies expenses and contract services specific to repairs on equipment, but there's no planned repairs specific to that item. So this is similar. If there's an intent to expense activities this year, then my recommendation is that those expenses would be taxed this year. The challenge you run into is if you just pull them from surplus, knowing you're going to expense it, it's not necessarily good financial prudence. And the other piece is that it's going to compound next year when you have the year, because you're going to have to pay it back next year. You're going to repay those funds. So the key piece is having a general level of confidence that you think that you might be within a certain window. And of course, as the mayor mentioned, it could go over if something, and that's a council prerogative later, but I wouldn't recommend not, if there's an intent to expense this coming season or this year specific to wildfire mitigation, then we would have a line item, a GL code and a budget associated with it, and we would tax for it this year would be the most appropriate thing to do. And of course, then mechanisms, as Councillor Andrews said and the mayor commented on, how is that approved? So it's just not arbitrarily expensed in the absence of council direction.
Right. Yeah.
If it's not utilized, you have the ability to carry forward next year.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
So it wouldn't just go into general surplus. You can make the decision that be part of next year's budget
Right.
process, that if zero is expensed or a portion, the remainder can go into, it can get carried over and into that fund next year.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any other discussion? Are we okay to vote on the whole tab, or do you want to pull that one out? Councilor Rover?
I see the value in having an expense item for these initiatives. I think with this new information, I can go back to the public and confidently give them an answer as to how to justify this.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
So I am ready to vote on the original motion.
Okay. Can somebody remind me what the original motion was? Because I've totally lost it, so.
It was for color tab 2, tab 3 and 4 was moved by the mayor for approval. Operating overview and special and major maintenance project summary.
Okay, so we're not doing that whole tab? We're not doing the whole operations and special projects tab? We are.
That's what I moved. I moved
Oh,
the
okay, so
entire,
I
the
misunderstood.
entire operations, yeah, the entire operations and special projects
Okay,
budget
that's what I
as
thought.
presented.
Okay, and did we get a seconder for that? Oh, Counselor Enax? Oh, sorry. Oh, it was Counselor Souls that seconded. Thank you. All right, you guys keep track of it for me. Okay. If there's no further discussion, then all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Perfect. Okay. That takes us to the big tab 3, capital and asset renewal. Are we prepared to deal with that as a block, or is there anything that needs to be pulled out or people have questions on? The mayor, go ahead.
I'll move tab 3, the capital budget as
Okay,
presented.
is there a second? Counselor Enax? Okay, I've written it down this time. Open for discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? Motion carries. And that's taking us to grants for groups. Wow, we got there quick. Okay. So we are starting at little tab 36.
I have a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So I think we agreed that we would pull these out individually. Can
Yep.
we ask someone from staff who has a fully updated list to name the particular group and the amount that's in the draft budget, so that then we can all be on the same page with respect to exactly what we're voting for.
Okay, I think I have an updated list.
So we'd like to start with the grants to community organizations. So
Yeah.
that would be tab 36.
It is tab 36, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
and it's page 1. Okay, do you want me to read them off, Mayor? Is that what you're looking for?
And the amount. The only reason I'm saying that is
Yep.
My updated file is out in the truck, and so
Okay,
I can't
All right.
remember exactly which ones with the dollar value for each one.
sorry. Yes, ma'am. Okay. All right, so general community groups is 2025 proposed budget at 20,000. Peace Liard Regional Arts Council at 5,000. Northern Rockies Search and Rescue, 25,000. Northern Rockies Senior Society, 55,000. Toad River and Area Community, 0. Toad River Hall Maintenance, 0. Toad River and Area Community Firefighting Supplies, 25,000.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yes, sir.
So now that we've approved tab 2 and 3 or 2, and we've got that 500,000 for fire mitigation, wouldn't it be more appropriate to have the Toad River and area firefighting supplies to go under that budget as well?
The only thing that comes to my mind is that this proposed $25,000 would be controlled by Toad River residents themselves, that committee. If we put it in the 500,000, then that would be controlled by the Resiliency and Fire Smart group, bringing reports to council. So I think that
That makes
Does that
sense why
make
they're
sense?
separated for
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
yeah, everybody's good with that? Okay, thank you, Counselor Andrews. Okay, and then just to review, Fort Nelson Community Literacy Societies, 30,000, and Fort Nelson Snowmobile Club is 15,000. And that's it. So we can't vote on this as a block because I have a conflict with the Literacy Society. But I don't believe there's any other conflicts, is there? On this one? No, not on this one. Okay. Counselor Souls, I'll hand it over to you. No?
I
Yeah.
think we can do these. So I would move each one of them individually. So for instance,
Oh, do you want to do each one of these individually too?
yes,
Okay,
well,
okay.
sure, because yeah. So I would
Okay.
I would move the
Okay.
grant to general community groups be set at $20,000.
Okay, is there a second? Counselor Souls, all in favor? Motion carries. Peace
I would move-
Yard Regional Arts Council is next.
I'll move that as well for
The
$5,000.
mayor, is there a second? Counselor Roper, all in favor? Motion carries. Northern Rockies Search and Rescue for 25,000.
Somebody else want to jump in, or do you want me to just keep doing
Yeah,
it?
yeah, no, just give us a minute. Counselor
Okay.
Enox and seconded by Counselor Roper. Oh, okay. Okay, never mind. Okay, did you want to make that comment first?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
go for it.
I would like to, it's probably right in front of me. Are we approving the amended budget ask, or are we talking about the submission that Search and Rescue made? We had a reduction in that, didn't we?
Yes, it was,
What was the difference between the two?
was it 34 to 25?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it was, they asked for 34 and yeah,
Yes.
And then as council's request was
yeah,
reverted back to last year's.
right.
34, 680 was the request. from
Look at
Search and
that.
Rescue.
Thank you.
So this would be a vote on the reduced amount,
On the
on
25,000.
the
yeah.
25,000.
Yeah.
How could we go about having a counselor move to approve the original ask?
Well, we currently have a motion on the floor to vote on Northern Rockies Search and Rescue at $25,000. So
So an
that's what I
amendment
was
would
just
be,
about to say. I'm looking for a seconder. On this original motion, I'm looking for a seconder.
I'll second
Uh,
that.
yeah. Okay, so then it's seconded by the mayor. Now, I think we can then we can vote on if we want to have an amendment, right? Okay, so Counselor Roper,
Okay, so I will make a motion to amend this this budget to its original submission of the 34,680.
okay, is there a seconder for that? Counselor Andrews. So now we vote on that, right? Okay,
Well,
all in favor of the amendment to the motion? Seeing 2 in favor, those opposed? Seeing 4. I'm assuming you'd like to be recorded?
Yes, please.
Okay. So now we can go back to the original motion of Northern Rockies Search and Rescue at $25,000. We have a motion, we have a seconder, right? We've got a seconder for that? Okay, all in favor? Yeah, any opposed? Okay, motion carries, nobody's opposed. Northern Rockies Senior Society at $55,000. Do I have a motion? Counselor Roper, seconded by Counselor Enox. Mayor, your hand is up. Did you want to speak?
Sorry. No,
Okay.
sorry.
Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Toad River and Area Community Firefighting Supplies, $25,000. Is there, Counselor Enox, thank you. Is there a second? Counselor Roper, all in favor? Motion carries. Okay, Fort Nelson Community Literacy Society. So I'll hand it over to Counselor Souls.
I am also going to declare a conflict. Yes.
All right, I'm gonna work from here. So
I'll move-
regarding,
I'll move the Fort Nelson Community Literacy Society grant and aid for $30,000.
do we have a second?
Before a second, I was just gonna add, was that their original request? That was, yeah, I was going back and forth and it appeared it, so I'll second that one. Yeah.
Any discussion on it? Okay, all in favor? There's no one else to be opposed. There we go. Let's call those two back in.
Okay. Moving to the Fort Nelson Snowmobile Club for $15,000. Looking for a motion.
I would move that.
Councillor
Sure.
Roper, seconded by Mayor, is that you?
Yeah, I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, all in favor? Or, sorry, is there any discussion? I'm sorry, yeah. Sorry, go ahead, yeah. No, he's looking for it. Do you want me to get my copy? Okay. Okay, we're just gonna pause for a second, Mayor.
Sure.
Councillor Andrew, if you're looking for their request, it was in the special meeting on April 22nd.
Thank you.
We didn't amend it in the April 30th.
Okay, yeah,
Package.
Yeah. Okay, you good, you're good?
Yep.
Okay, okay, so, where am I? Yeah, so Fort Nelson Snowmobile Club for $15,000 and the mayor's made the motion. Is there a seconder?
I made the motion.
Oh, sorry. All right, there we go. Other way around. Okay, is there discussion? Counselor Roper. Oh,
Yeah,
and then you,
just-
okay, Counselor Roper and then the mayor, please.
Yeah, just a quick conversation. I know when this came up at the last meeting, we talked about again, the funding freeze and the hardships that the economy is going through. And I think that this request is illustrating that the nonprofits need our support right
Mhm.
now. If we're going to, we can't have our cake and eat it too. I feel like going forward, we seriously need to consider more requests, not reducing it or keeping it the same, but at least discussing it and working with the community. I would hate for any of these groups to go under, and that's a very real possibility right now. I know there's several nonprofits that are
Mhm.
on the brink of financial collapse. And if there's something that we can do, this budgeting process is so important for me because a lot of the decisions we make, they're not really decisions. There's some rubber stamping. There's decisions we have to make because we're legally obligated to. This is a decision that we actually can make and do some good here. So I really feel that we need to consider any and all asks. And at the end of the day, it's not about me or you or anyone else at the table. It's about the community, and we need to consider that when we make these decisions. So,
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Mayor?
Thank you for that, Councilor Roper. I absolutely agree with you. I agree that this is this ask from the Snowmobile Club is probably because of hard economic times around the community, and I think that's a general understanding from all the people that I spoke to as well. And so, what we as a community, as a council of the community, need to really consider is what's sustainable in the future. And I think that's why we've got this new policy coming forward with respect to grants to community organizations. Actually, I think we called it something else. We called it government transfers. So that policy is is a great opportunity for us to have the very discussion that you've asked for, and I'm looking forward to that, because I believe, and it's one of the reasons I proposed the freeze in the first place, is that I think there's a lot of organizations out there, and we need to start trying to determine exactly what the long-term ability for us to support, all of the different groups that potentially might come forward looking for money. I absolutely agree. I think all of them provide services to the municipality that people in the community would like to see. But I don't know that all members of the community would like us to pay for all budgets that might come forward. And so there's going to be an opportunity for us to review that publicly. I believe that there'll be a public policy process when it comes to the government transfer process, and I hope we'll start to really flush out how many of the organizations out there may need our support, what that support looks like, and how much our future budgets are going to be able to sustain over time. So absolutely agree with you. With respect to the snowmobile club, I think that they do provide trail services out there. I think there's a lot of people both in that club and outside of that club who are benefiting from it. I don't have a lot of experience with the club. I just see the trails and some of the buildings that they've put out there and the maintenance that they've done. I certainly would like to see them continue doing that, and that's why I can be in favor for this one-time grant. And the reason I say that is their proposal was for an annual grant of $15,000. I'm not prepared to go to an annual grant of $15,000, but I'm prepared to support a one-year grant of $15,000. And so I just am looking for clarification as to whether the resolution is to support $15,000 for this year or $15,000 annually as they asked for.
No, it's for this year because we vote on all of them. I don't think that we have a major commitment. That's what we're working towards on our new government transfer policy. We perhaps might be looking at some longer range funding for groups so that they know during that election year, because we really shouldn't be making decisions for the next council. But, you know, you can look at 2 years, or if it's at the beginning of the term, you can look at that 4-year term if that council comes to an agreement, right? So this is what I'm prepared to vote on right now, is the Fort Nelson Snowmobile Club for $15,000 for the year of 2025.
If that's how the motion reads, then I'm in support of that.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Right. So that takes us to which one? 37, the library.
I'd like to declare a conflict of interest. My wife's employed by the library board.
Okay. Does anybody want to make a motion, or do you want to have a discussion beforehand? Councillor Roper, your finger's on the button.
Sure. Thank you. You read my mind. Yeah, as long as we have the opportunity to consider the original ask. And I just want to say that the library is doing such a fantastic job, and that, you know, the cost of labor isn't going down anytime soon. But the productivity coming from that organization has skyrocketed. I mean, when I was a kid, I never played mini golf in a library. And I've done that with my children, and they've had the opportunity to have that. And I would like that organization to really flourish, because I just know in my heart that they're doing such great work, and they wouldn't be asking for a dime more than they need. And also, if you look back at the 2017 ask, if you consider inflation, they're asking for much less than even that. So those are my comments. I just want the opportunity to be able to approve the budget as it was submitted.
Are you making that as a motion, or were you just making comments?
I'd be prepared to make that as a motion, but as I understand from the last vote, the motion was for the what's on our budget and our budget binders. And then we made an amendment.
But that's because there was already a motion on the floor.
Okay.
So
okay.
if
So we
you want to make a motion to
Oh, okay.
award the library whatever the original ask was, and we'll see if there's a seconder. for
okay,
that.
great. Fresh start.
Okay.
Okay. I would make the motion to what's the amount? What was the original amount? Sorry.
I know. 378.11.
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve the budget submission from the Fort Nelson Public Library for the original submission of 378.11. You said?
Yep, 11.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Is there a seconder for that? Seeing none, Motion fails.
I'm prepared to make a motion that the library grant and aid be approved at $362,703.
Okay, is there a seconder for that? Counselor Souls? Okay, all in favor? All in favor, motion passes. Thank you. Okay. 38 is the museum. Oh, yeah, thanks, Counselor Souls. We'll just leave them out there. Okay. Everybody is back around the table. I don't think anybody will be declaring a conflict. So we are looking for a motion to approve. Oh, that's not right. Wait a minute. I have the wrong sheet here. What is the amount on?
$192,000. I'll make that
Yeah.
motion that the museum be awarded 100 as part of their budget ask, $192,000.
Okay, and you made that motion, Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second? Counselor Enox? Open for discussion? Counselor Roper?
Can we get a comparison of what their original submission was compared to this number?
The original submission was 192,550.
And this one is what?
192 even. It's held at, based on council's previous.
'Cause that's
direction,
what they got
held
last
at
year.
Held at 2024's number, which is 192, and their original submission was 192,550. So 550,000 or $550, sorry, reduction from their ask.
All right, well, I think they could really use that $550. So I'm going to make another motion to an amendment to the motion to increase their budget by $550.
Okay. Okay, so we have an amendment to the motion by Counselor Roper, seconded by Counselor Andrews to award the museum 192,500? 550. Okay. Call the question, or is there any discussion on the amendment? Okay.
I think it's a great amendment.
So we have
My
to
comment.
vote on the amendment, right? Okay, so all in favor of the amendment? So I see 2 in favor of the amendment. Those opposed to the amendment, don't make me laugh. Okay, seeing 4, amendment fails. Back to the original question of the museum at 192,000, right? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you, motion carried. Okay, and the theater?
I'm going to declare conflict. I'm
Okay,
employed there.
all right. Okay, we're looking at the theater, tab 39, and the budget request is for total expense of 229,000. That includes that $40,000 that we are holding for them in capital. Right?
I'll make
Is
that motion.
how it goes? That's what we're voting on? Okay. I'm looking for a motion. Oh,
I'll
the
make
mayor
it.
did? Okay. And seconded by Counselor Enox. And discussion. Thank you.
Looking at this, their operating request last for 2024 was 189, and that's also what we're proposing for this year? Or
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the number as Deputy Mayor had commented, so 189 is the net tax levy.
yeah, and that was their
And-
request
and
in
then-
2024.
And that was their request in 2024, and then the additional amount this year comes out of that reserve that we're holding on their behalf of the 40,000. So the total budget amount will be 229 with the net impact of the tax levy of 189,000.
Okay, and then their 2025 request was for 219 budget operating though, right?
They're
Yeah, plus the 40.
219, yes.
plus the 40.
Plus the
Plus
40, yeah.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
for a total of
259. Got it. I would like to,
Are you amending? the
I would
motion?
like to try to amend that. The theater is one of them organizations that they're not just a movie theater. They're an art center. We hold our public forums there.
Point of order, what's the ask? You gotta make the ask before you make the argument.
Okay, thank you. I would like to amend the motion to their original 2025 request for a total of $259,000.
Thank you.
Okay, now, did you want to
I'll
continue?
see
with
if I
Okay.
get my motion passed.
All right, is there a seconder for that motion?
No.
Okay, seeing none. Go back to the original motion of 189,000 plus the 40,000 in capital that we're holding for them for a total of 229,000. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Counselor Andrews. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Oof. That takes us to number 5, which is the public news media question. Oh, yeah, Counselor Roper. Welcome back. Okay. We're done that section. So we're number 5, public news media question and answer period. Is there anything from the public? Anything online? Okay, seeing none, I can call this meeting adjourned. Right? Or do we have to vote on something overall? Like there's nothing on my agenda here but adjournment, so.
Can we talk about the next meeting? I know staff is trying to arrange the next meeting.
Okay. What do you want to talk about? The date or?
The date, yeah.
Okay, you take it away, Mayor. What would you?
Oh, I'm looking for staff to, I think there was a series of emails, but I didn't see the responses. So I think that was for Tuesday, the 6th. Is that correct? Or 8th?
So currently Tuesday, the 6th at noon, we have there's a temporary hold. We're just waiting on your availability, Mayor, honestly. So
Yeah.
it's just if you have availability, everyone else has just confirmed their availability.
Okay. I'll make an effort for sure. I mean, I don't know. I just about missed today because of this fire, but yeah. So put me down for yes, and I'll do everything I can to make it there.
Okay. At noon. That's the intent of
Okay, so May 6th at noon, and that will be the budget bylaw that we're passing, correct? Okay.
Well, it's first
Like-
introduction, I think.
Oh, right, yeah.
It'll be for initial readings. And then the intent is also to bring back that asset retirement obligation policy for
Okay.
formal consideration.
Okay.
And we'll get the meeting now in your calendars since we've got consensus that works.
Okay, great. Well, before we adjourn, then I just want to thank everybody for the proceedings today, all of the work that's gone into what we have accomplished here today, to staff for all their hard work. And yeah, and I know that there's some angst around these very hard decisions that we're having to make. And I just want to express my appreciation for everybody's support that you've given me in chairing this meeting and preparing for this meeting. Yeah, I just really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And we're adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.